Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We wanted to get this episode in front of you before the holidays because you better go give grandma a hug. You better do it right now. It's because I said so. Any of these things sound familiar? Well, if that's got you interested in what we're going to talk about in this episode that we've titled Redefining Gratitude, Affection, and Autonomy, Empowering Expressions, then stick around. We are going to get to it. And a fun fact that I did not mention in episode 1, if you haven't seen that one yet, we'll just talk about intentional parenting and kind of our journey with it. I have known these two lovely guests for about 35 minutes now. We just met over social media, and I am just so grateful that these two courageous, inspiring people are joining me in this crazy wild ride that I have no clue what it's going to be like. And that's what it should be like. Just do it. All right. So let's talk. I just hope y'all are ready for this one. So buckle up. Let's talk about forcing kids to say thank you. Let's just talk about gratitude. Forcing kids to say thank you. So we're going to talk about what we've experienced, maybe how we were raised, if that gets brought up, what we do with it, and maybe something we've learned about that just in itself. Forcing a child to say thank you.
Well, I think that the idea of saying thank you is a politeness, a courtesy that we all want to be able to extend to someone else to let them know that we respect them. So I understand the sentiment in wanting our children to say thank you. I think that there is this sticking point about it, and I don't exactly know, I haven't really thought that hard about why we stick on it so hard. But when my child is out maybe at the grocery store and someone says something kind, I personally will just say, thank you. Wasn't that kind? I will speak for my child, especially my 4.5-year-old. But even my older two, sometimes they are a little bit hesitant to someone they don't know offering them a compliment or, trying to engage them in conversation. I have very hesitant children. They aren't so outgoing and speaking to anyone. So I sort of like cover for them, but I see it more of I am meeting the need of the stranger so that my kid doesn't feel like they have to. I do want to model gratitude for my kids because I think that's the best way for them to get that. And with close relationships, naturally, my older two easily will say thank you. I would say it's okay to remind them at home, thank dad, he just got you your oatmeal or something like that. But that's more of, I think, just teaching when they're older and they understand. And I would say, probably at least elementary age, but sometimes this is demanded to much younger kids who are just learning how to speak, and they just really don't have the awareness to understand why they're being demanded to say certain words. So I guess that's my take on the thank you.
Carrie, I love what you said about meeting the needs of the adult or the stranger. And that it doesn't have to be your kid's job to meet the needs of an adult or a stranger. When this topic comes up, the 3 words that I wrote down were respect, expectation, and modeling. So respect means, for many of us in this generation, but for older generations, it's a sign of respect. I gave you a gift, you say thank you, that means you respect me. If I give you a gift and you don't say thank you, that's a lack of respect and it feels offensive. And I think that's why, and that's where expectations come in. Adults expect children to be grateful. We expect them to respect us. We expect them to say what we're expecting them to say. And when they don't, adults can get hurt or angry that the kid didn't meet their expectations. And the reason I wrote down modeling is that's how I teach thank you and please. When somebody brings me a drink, I say thank you. When I want somebody to do me a favor, I say please. And I don't coach my child. Remember, my youngest child is 2.5. He's got a lot of words. He's learning new words, right? And it's ridiculous to expect him to say thank you when he can't say thank you. But also, he doesn't understand thank you. Kids under a certain age are self-centered. They're the entirety of their universe. So meeting somebody else's expectations is pretty far stretch for little guys and gals. So modeling, I think, is our best bet as parents who want to do intentional parenting or non-coercive parenting. You have to say thank you. You have to meet adults' expectations. Is for, like Carrie said, we can cover for them, right? Somebody gave you a glass of milk. I'll say thank you if my toddler can't do it. And as he watches me say thank you every time somebody does me a favor or brings me a gift, he's going to get it. That's how he learns, is through concrete experience.
Can I
Absolutely.
you really quick? When you think about the adult who's expecting this, I think we've all been here, at least at younger ages, where we sort of had that expectation. I think it just takes a moment to think, why do I need this young kid to tell me thank you right now? I wanted to offer them a compliment or do this because I wanted to do it for them. I don't actually need them to say thank you. I just think if we all just took a little self-responsibility on why we have these expectations, maybe we don't need to have them. Just let that go.
Carrie, I think it comes from the way we were raised.
Yeah.
Adults expected me to say thank you, and adults expected me to say please. So obviously I'm supposed to teach that to my kids.
And what you probably heard if you didn't say thank you, that's rude. That is just so rude. I am so embarrassed that you can't even say thank you. And that's unfortunate, because who is that thank you for? Like how you were saying it, Carrie, you were meeting the adult's needs for your child so they didn't feel they needed to. Yeah, why? Yeah, why? Anyway, and here's another thing that I thought of. Strangers. I love everyone that I come in contact with if they are, polite and, whatever. I have love for everyone. But again, you're a stranger. Why are you talking to a child? Oh, you're shy. Anyway, that's going to be later on and maybe in another episode. But no, you're still a stranger. And I can see that you're also this much taller than my kid. We're talking about a little kid. Remember, mine's close to 3. And again, here's another point from a brain perspective. Kids until like age of 4 or 5 have a million neurons firing every second. They are not going to remember all the things that we model for them all the time because they're constantly this. I can't even imagine. Poor little people. I mean, it's just crazy to have such high expectations. But I do love what both of you said, the modeling. Absolutely. And what I tell my kiddo is, I like to say thank you when someone gives me something. I just explain to her what I like to do and model it, obviously. So great explanation on both of your, I'm like, thank you. It's so refreshing to be around people like you. I'm just saying 2 of you, it's just 3 of us here. And I'm just like, you're my people and we barely know each other. Okay. So the age, when does it really click? Kids, anybody want to talk about what age it really does click?
You know what? There's not going to be a concrete answer to that. Every kid develops at their own pace, and we can find a window, right? And some kids are on the early side of the window or the late side of the window. But if your kid is not saying please and thank you, they're probably in that window. It's fine. I can't really define it for you, but we're looking at preschool, kindergarten age for them to really understand it and express it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Gordon Neufeld, but he is amazing. You have to look him up on YouTube to find his like interviews, and there's a couple little videos from his institute on there that give you like intros to his courses. But I also follow a person on Instagram who teaches his sort of philosophy for parents. I'll have to like put that link somewhere for everyone. But he talks about children developing mixed feelings. And so he has a video on preschoolers. And when kids are young and they're experiencing a feeling, they are like all in that feeling. They don't have the ability to hold a part of me really wants to say thank you, but a part of me is scared. They don't have both of those things yet. I think he says it's between 5 and 7 is when kids start to be able to have mixed feelings. And so we're expecting a child who maybe can't understand that the parent or the adult wants something or needs something. They can't hold that right now. They've just been given something and their whole thing is about this. Then to be able to hold the idea that this person needs something, they can't like brain wise, neurologically wise, they can't do that yet. So, and then to understand even why they're saying it, like that's going to be later. So, and I think it's interesting. The more I've done a lot of reading on all of this and learned about like neurology and the biology of like how we grow, we're expecting a lot out of very young children. And it's like we treat them as if they're little mini adults, and they're not. They're not adults. They are whole people and they deserve all the respect, but they're not adults. So,
Well said.
Yeah.
That's a sidebar. For me, it made me think. If you want to become a parent or you're a parent already, do you find it, I don't even know how to word this, but I'm going to spit it out. Do you think it is necessary for that parent or parent-to-be to do a fast-track course for the betterment of really their journey as a parent, but mostly for the child, to understand milestones when it comes to the brain?
Yeah. I didn't know any of this stuff. That would have been so helpful. So helpful.
Nothing.
I'm not sure if it should be required, but I think it should be highly, highly recommended.
It should be handed out with all the other things they hand out to new moms. You get formula, you get a bag, you get this, like hand them the pamphlet.
Yes. Child development, beginner psychology, and expected milestones, so that you don't expect too much from your child or your little person who just isn't there yet. You're expecting 5-year-old behaviors from a 2-year-old. You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes. And here's for one family member specifically. I hope you do get to watch this. But for other people too that do not have children, but you are around children. So I'm going to give an example of a time that I was just devastated, but I chose to stop explaining myself. And it's just so exhausting sometimes when you get the resistance that you get, especially from people that here's the example. Here's what happened. I was at a family member's house who has chosen not to have children. Love that. I love that they can openly say, I just have not wanted children. I chose not to have children. And they definitely have asked a lot of questions of my parenting style because they were raised the same way I was. Actually, their parents raised me half. So this is what was stated. I said something to the fact of, it would be really nice if people would just kind of hear me out a little bit when it comes to emotional development, And then the response was, well, I'm not around children and I don't feel the need to do any of that. And I'm looking at my child who this person is around, and I'm looking back at them and I'm just like, but you are around children. This is my child around you right now. And this is the example I thought of in my head, and I did not say it, and I wish I would have said it. Here's a dog example. If you're a dog mom, dog dad, dog parent, this person is. They have a dog, and that is their child. It would be the same if I did not have dogs, even though I do. I love dogs. I love animals. But let's just say I don't have a dog, but I go over to their house and I see a grape or an onion on the floor. don't you think that I should be educated enough to say, hey, there's a grape on the floor. The dog's going to eat the grape because we know that that is going to negatively impact that dog.
Mhm.
Or do I just say, I'm not around dogs. I don't need to know that a grape or an onion or chocolate or something like that is going to be harmful for your animal. So I'm just going to take the pass on this. I know it's like comparing apples to oranges, but is it? I mean, you're still thinking of the health of that thing, that mammal, essentially. So I'm sorry, that was just, yeah.
It was a great example.
Long-winded explanation, but even if you are not a parent, please do yourself a favor for the people, the little people that you might encounter. Please understand at least a little bit of development, especially the little ones. I'm talking like toddler.
It really does matter because if you think about the idea of like, have you heard of the book Hunt, Gather, Parent?
Mhm.
She explores the cultures that are kind of like outside of the westernized culture, I guess. Like the hunter gatherers that have kind of like, evolved up until now, how they live and how they parent. And it's a community village, there's multiple adults that are helping raise the child. And so if you are going to be a part of the community, there's a responsibility to, help our whole community thrive. So I think that we should care about our nieces and our nephews and our neighbors and all the children at the grocery store. I mean, sometimes those moms have the kids throwing a fit and they just need someone to be like, my gosh, it's okay. Like, like we need that compassion to be there and not the judgment. So if we know that we can offer that compassion.
Lygia, what topic do you really want to take on? I'm excited.
I have such strong feelings about apologies for little people. And like I said about the thank yous, there's a developmental readiness. And it's not necessarily an age, it's a development skill wherever they are in their development. So I'll go with the example of hitting. Little Bobby bops Johnny, and the teacher says, say sorry. And he's like, I'm not sorry. But the expectation is that you're going to say sorry. And do they even understand when you're your own little world? And sometimes your parents are part of your world, but mostly it's you and what you want and your favorite toys and your favorite shows. You don't have a lot of empathy for other people because it hasn't developed yet. So a little person's choices are say sorry and move on, but they don't learn sorry. They don't learn, shame is not the right word, but regret. Like, I regret hitting my friend is different than blurting out the words, I'm sorry. There are things like reparations, like, oh, you hit Johnny, now go give him a hug. No, just no, because the child who did the hitting might not want to give him a hug. He just took my toy. The child who's been hit doesn't want a hug. We can't force that on them. But again, this is about expectations. Adults are like, well, if I hurt somebody, then I say I'm sorry, and then they forgive me. That's the order that things go in. Kids don't know that because they haven't experienced this over and over and over, that this is the order that things go in. But I want to challenge that. Is that the order things have to go in? Somebody apologizes to you, do you have to say it's okay? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you say, I accept your apology, but I'm still hurt. And I feel so strongly about children being forced or manipulated into saying sorry that they don't understand. And so you have kids that will say it and move on, and they're going to hit their friend again because they're not really sorry. And what winds up happening is adults are upset about this. And I advise people to wait. Like Carrie had said earlier, you can cover for them, right? Oh my gosh, my kid just hit you. I feel really bad about that. Are you feeling okay? You can model it, right? I stepped on your toe. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? And as kids get older, grade school age, a meaningful apology is different than blurting out the words, I'm sorry. But that's what you were trained to do in toddlerhood and preschool. You were trained to just blurt it out. A meaningful apology takes accountability. I know what I did. I know what I'm apologizing for. I do feel remorse. Here's what I'm going to do in the future, right? You took my truck. I hit you. That wasn't the right move. In the future, I'm going to ask a teacher for help. Really understanding that what you did was wrong is different than blurting out an apology that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't help the other kid feel better. Doesn't help you feel better. And again, we're just meeting the expectations of adults who need to understand how old this child is. And what we expect from other adults isn't applicable to little people who just don't get it yet.
Okay, I would love to jump in if I can have like a minute. Okay. Because you said so many good things about just saying the words and not feeling the feeling. And that's a big thing with Dr. Gordon Neufeld. Like the kids have to feel their feelings because that is what motivates behavior. All behavior is fueled by emotions. So if the kid, and this is a Dr. Becky Bailey thing, if a kid hits another kid and you're like in a classroom setting or you're around the kids, you can be like, oh, look at Susie. What is her, how does her face look right now? And she might be like, you notice, you show the kid how to be curious of how the kid responded to that. Obviously, if it's not like a serious situation and they're like bleeding or something, you would just, but the kid is able to go, oh, and they're going to have those mirror neurons. They're going to be like, oh, she's sad, she's crying. And they are going to, feel that. Oh, I don't want her to feel sad and cry because kids don't. Kids care. We're born good,
Mm-hmm.
And so that will move them to go, are you okay? And they'll say it in their own way. And it'll be so authentic. And you don't have to teach them that. It's actually biologically built into us. And I think the expectations that we have as adults are fear. Like we have this fear that if the kid doesn't say the right thing or do the right thing, they're going to become a psychopath. But if we just let them feel their feelings, they'll be whole people. They're made to be that way. So,
and some kids need to be guided to look at the other person.
Yeah.
Look at Susie's face and let them identify the emotion.
Yeah.
Or in games of chase, you have to see the person's face. Are they afraid? Then this game is not fun. If they're laughing, this game is fun. But when you're chasing somebody, you can't see their face. So how do you know if they're having fun? And teaching kids, again, by modeling, check on their face, check and make sure they're having a good time. And learning, and like you said, the mirroring neurons, they don't have to learn how to understand how other people are feeling. They just have to look.
Yeah. And allow that space to pass, not jump to saying things, like let them sit there and sort of like hold that moment, but be there to guide it so it doesn't get ugly. But yeah, just giving them that space to feel it and see it. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, both of you are right into episode 3 because that's what we're going to talk about in episode 3. If my guest will join me back in episode 3, where we talk about emotions and tantrums and what's developmentally appropriate, so to speak. So with that, I would love to talk about, we're going into the holidays. You know what I'm about to say. Bum, bum, bum. You go sit on so-and-so's lap. You give them a hug. You never see them. You better do that or we're leaving.
Those expectations again.
And the adult expectations.
That's the adult expectation.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to go first on this really quick. I'm gonna try and do it really quickly. One side of the family who I'm not close with, who I don't see often. I really don't see a lot of my family, just because of where we live and because of how we choose to do things. But I do know that growing up, this side of the family, I would just go ahead and say, like, my dad's side of the family, my aunts, my grandma, we call Granny, they were so good with kids. Like, all the kids loved them. They made them laugh. They were excitement and fun and games. And I couldn't wait to take my kid to meet my dad's side of the family, even though I wasn't close with them growing up. But when I did see them, it was a lot of fun. But then you see a different side of what that fun really looked like as a parent, from a parent perspective. It was, come here, like talking to my child. They were like, you come here and sit on my lap. You come give me a hug. And then it's them getting defensive because my kid said no. And my kids too. All right. My kids too. And she was barely 2 at this point. So the limited vocabulary that she had, it was very much a no. First of all, she doesn't know you, but they expect that she does because we're family by blood. But also, they looked at me with disgust of, I can't believe you accept the word no and that she's not sitting on my lap right now. I am her grandmother, or I am her great aunt. So that right there has stuck with me. I will not force my kid to do anything. Unless it comes to her safety, she will not be forced to do anything, especially when it comes to affection. Even I ask, can I give you a hug? Or would you like to have a hug? May I have a hug? I'd like a hug. And I do not guilt with the, oh, I'm going to be sad if you don't give me a hug. That was going on too. And I'm like, I didn't see this as a kid. If I did, it was just normal and it didn't seem like a red flag. But as a parent now, we don't go and visit that much. Anybody else want to add to that?
And it all rings true. That I can't believe you let your kids say no. Are you kidding me? I know that I was not supposed to say no. I'm sure I did. I'm sure I said no, but that's not a thing. And I feel very protective of my child's peace and body and emotions. My youngest and my middle child, both slow to warm. I don't really feel the word shy is not true, but slow to warm. And if somebody comes running with a loud voice and a big hug, they're going to shy away. And you need to know them and understand them and respect them. Respect that that's not where they are with you. And all of what you said rings true. I can't really elaborate more on that, but I've definitely been there and wanted and felt like, well, this is not how I want it to be. You don't have to hug anyone.
This touches in again on development too, because I think it's when kids are around 9 months old is when people start saying separation anxiety, but it's actually not separation anxiety. It's actually biologically the children know who their core caretakers are, and they aren't going to just go with anybody. And that's a healthy response. So if we're not visiting this family member very often and they're not, FaceTiming or talking, they don't know you. You're not a core person. They are not going to hug you. They're not going to, be overly interactive because they're waiting. They're reading the situation. And that's healthy for them to trust themselves, to build their own, I guess it's just trusting themselves and feeling their feelings and going, okay, mom likes this person. Mom is hugging this person. Okay, I think this is a safe person. Let them build that attachment, that relationship. I think adults just expect some relationship. It's like you build relationships. You don't just get them.
Yes.
And that kind of goes into what I'd love for us to end with as far as autonomy. Allowing a child to just go at it at their own pace, their own readiness. What about, these are going to be trigger words. Oh, good job. You're so smart. Or in the aspect of the physical development side of, be careful. The vagueness is what I want to really end with. The vague things that we say as adults, and we still probably slip up and say them, but the importance of the intention behind, again, intentional parenting, right? The intentions of why we're saying what we're saying and how does it help that child. Anybody want to go in on this real quick?
I guess real quick, I just think about the conscious parenting idea. When my kids come in and show me something and I'm saying good job, am I really there? Am I really present with what they're showing me? Because do I really want to say that to them? Or I'm like, thank you for sharing that with me. I really am glad that we get to share this moment, you know? And I hear myself saying that all the time. And when I catch myself, I'm like, why did I just say that? It's just so automatic. It just runs right off the top. And I think it's, for me, it's like be present here, make eye contact, sit with them. What are they actually bringing to you?
Gia, I know you have a great resource you're going to share in the comments because we've already seen a clip of it. Please talk about it.
Okay, so autonomy. Okay, so bodily autonomy is when you're in charge of your own body and you get to make choices about your body. And a lot of adults think that they can just pick up and move a child. I mean, you can. They're little. Just pick them up and move them. I don't want you in the kitchen. I just moved you out of the kitchen. But then the child is not in charge of their body. And you're literally teaching them other people can move you. Other people can touch your body without your consent. Other people can tell you what to do. And so it is super important to me that my child gets to make his own decisions about where his body is and how he's going to move it. And I'm not saying that if your kid is in the kitchen and you need them to move and I say, hey, buddy, can you move? And he says, no. I'm going to say, you can walk out of the kitchen. You can hop out of the kitchen. I can carry you out of the kitchen. He's still in charge of his body. I'm giving him some choices how to move his body, but the body needs to be moved. He just learned the words, move your body. And it has to do with stairs. So I'm extremely protective of this. You're right to be in charge of your body because it will impact you a lot in your teens and in your adults. Do you really want to raise your kid to believe that other people are in charge of their body? Is that something we want to instill in our people, in our little people? And again, it's intentional. If you don't think about this, it's normalized, right? That's how I was moved as a kid. My oldest kids, they were moved. And it's so important that we remember they are people. You don't just get to move them. So.
And I know I threw a lot in one lump at the end here just to save everyone's time. The video that you shared with us that I hope that you'll share in the comments, Ajia, is the internalization of, like, when we tell a kid, great job, or you're so smart, or can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, that's the one. You're so smart and good job. You're so smart. We want to praise our kids, right? They just did all of their addition homework and we say, oh, good job. You're so smart. But we're setting them up for a time where it's not easy. They struggle with their homework. And then they say to themselves, oh no, I'm not smart. Everybody was wrong. I am not smart. And we want to say good job. We want to say you're so smart. So how do you get around that? How do you replace it, right? And what I love, and it sounds canned, and when my husband and parents say this, it sounds canned, but it matters, you guys. You worked hard on that. Somebody does a puzzle and you say good job, right? What really happened was they were focused. They were trying hard. They did it. Sometimes a whoa, you did it is all you need to say. Because I want my kids to believe that their perseverance is a strength, not their intelligence. How hard you try on your math is what matters, because when it gets hard and difficult, how hard you try is your strength, not how smart you are. As far as good job, I'll use art for an example. somebody paints a big painting and you say, wow, good job. It's praise and it's good. And then they want praise, but it's empty. You could say, that's a lot of colors, or tell me more about it. Say anything. And I'm not saying you can't say good job. Everybody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear that they did a good job. But as much as you can, replace it with other thoughtful, intentional things. I see how hard you worked on that. I see you used a lot of colors. And like Carrie said, I'm so glad you wanted to show me this. Can you tell me more? Because again, we're putting the emphasis on what they did and how hard they worked on it. And not like an innate talent. People are like, well, I'm not good at art, so I'm not going to do art. I'm guilty of that. I'm not good at it, so I don't do it. Well, you can do it even if you're not good at it. If you love doing it, you should keep doing it.
Absolutely. And I think people are going to watch this and say, God, this is so much information. How do I do all of this? So I just want us to, I'll say it real quick. And then if you guys have some closing remarks, I just want to give some tips and tricks and advice and try and say it in less than 2 minutes. But what I have found that helps me with other people that are around my kid is, with all of these topics we've talked about in this episode 2, ask my child a question. So instead of telling them something or forcing them to do something, even with everything we've talked about, if you just replace it with, do you like your artwork? Are you proud of it? You did it. Or would you like to be picked up? Would you like to give me a hug? Or would you like to say anything? I even say these questions to my kid all the time. But as far as like my mom, I'll give her like total props because she raised me a different way, obviously. And she has grown so much as a grandmother that she now just asks her granddaughter questions in a question form. I think if you take nothing away from this, because it's so much information, if you train yourself just to ask questions to a little person that you're around, like a young person, think about how much power that could be for the both of you. Do y'all have any last like tips, tricks, advice? I know we're going to put resources in the comments because it is a lot to take in, especially if you're not going this journey or in it yet.
I will say one quick thing about the hugging a family member, especially with holidays coming up. We have grandmas and great grandmas that love hugs from their babies. Love, love, love them. And my kids are close with them and they love hugging them too. But they are young and sometimes they just aren't really sure what they want because it's just, we drove a long way and it's like they're hungry or they're tired. And so when they first see them and they're like, oh, and sometimes my family's learning, they'll be like, do you want a hug? Even though they really just want to like grab them, there's a little bit of respect coming there for the child. And so I will actually come down to my kids' level and be like, do you want to give grandma a hug now? And if they don't answer, I'll be like, do you want to give them a hug later? And normally I'll get some sort of, response from my kid. And then I can go, she's going to hug you in a little bit. She needs to rest or she needs to use the bathroom or whatever it is. Give them that space because sometimes the kids can't answer. They're just frozen. They're not really sure. They want to say yes, but they don't really know why they don't want to say no. And they just don't know. So give them an out. That's all I got.
Wonderful. Lagia, what you got to close us out?
Well, I think you guys covered it all. I'm just excited for the next bit because I have so much more to say.
I know, and I was rushing us here at the end. Okay. If you've put anything in the comments, we will get to them. We are using StreamYard. It is a platform that allows us to record in advance so we can stream it live just to fight through the algorithms of social media. So yeah, if you want to private message me and to reach out to anyone here in this talk series, do that, please. You don't have to feel like, oh, I don't want other people to see that I'm commenting. Just, you have full access to my inbox. Just send me a message. But if you want to comment anything, we love the dialogue, obviously. We wouldn't be here. So thank you guys so much, and stay tuned for episode 3. I can't wait. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.